Those are two very different paths. I feel like there are no race car drivers currently who are like, it was either this or florist.
Shocking news always travels faster than truth. And in the dazzling, restless world of celebrity culture where private lives are never fully private, a single image can carry the power to turn not only careers but entire futures upside down. And such was the case when the entertainment world awoke one morning to the explosive revelation that Sam Heughan, beloved star of Outlander and the man romantically tied to Dakota Johnson in what was meant to be one of Hollywood's most beautiful love stories, culminating in a fairy tale wedding, was photographed in the streets of Paris kissing a stranger girl, and not a fleeting kiss either, but one that seemed charged with undeniable intimacy, causing immediate shockwaves that rippled across every newspaper, glossy magazine, and social network feed within hours, with headlines blaring uncompromising accusations, blunt and sensationalized in their tones. Sam Heughan cheats on Dakota Johnson on the eve of the wedding screamed across front pages, while Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and celebrity gossip blogs lit up with outrage, defense, speculation, disbelief, heartbreak, and mockery, splitting fans into divided camps where some cried betrayal and others insisted on misunderstanding, creating a cultural storm that seemed to feed upon itself as each retweet, repost, and article added another layer to the blaze. Yet behind the images and the noise there remained human beings, frail, fallible, longing for love, dignity, and truth, and Dakota Johnson, preparing quietly for a wedding dress fitting in Los Angeles, found herself at the center of this maelstrom when her manager entered with the kind of look on his face that speaks louder than any words, placing the phone in her hands where the photos appeared with cruel clarity. Sam in a white shirt and simple jeans, the unidentified woman with long brown hair partially concealing her face, their lips locked in a way that left little room for doubt in the eyes of the public. Though Dakota herself, frozen, stared at the glowing screen with a silence that felt endless, whispering almost to herself, "Is this really Sam?" Her voice a mixture of disbelief, pain, and desperate hope that some rational explanation would surface, while her friends urged her not to trust every poisonous fabrication spewed by tabloids hungry for profit, reminding her of the manipulations so common in media and how images can deceive. But deep inside her, beneath the calm exterior of the actress who has long mastered composure, a tide of uneasiness rose, threatening to wash away the delicate dream she had been weaving of a future bound in love, vows, and companionship. For the wedding had been more than an event. It had been a symbol, an anchor of meaning in a world where fame often corrodes intimacy, and now a few photos threatened to reduce it all to ashes. While across the Atlantic in Paris, Sam was immersed in a major photo shoot for a global fashion brand, completely unaware until his phone vibrated incessantly with calls, messages, and notifications, his manager bursting into the studio pale with panic. "Sam, you're all over the news. They say you betrayed Dakota. We have to react now before this spirals further." And Sam, his heart pounding with dread, felt the walls of the studio close in as he recognized instantly what had been captured by the paparazzi and what the world had chosen to believe. Yet he also knew the truth hidden behind that deceptive image, though truth, as he realized in that moment, is fragile when pitted against spectacle, for in the court of public opinion a picture is worth not 1,000 words, but 1,000 judgments, and the reality was that the mysterious woman was not a secret lover, not some clandestine affair threatening to unravel his engagement, but Isabella Marot, a French photographer and close creative collaborator with whom he shared a moment of impulsive affection in the charged atmosphere of artistic exchange, a kiss misinterpreted as romantic, when in truth it was a mixture of gratitude, inspiration, and European informality that might look scandalous in the glare of Hollywood gossip culture, but in Parisian creative circles was neither unusual nor salacious. Yet how could Sam explain this nuance to millions of strangers who craved the simple narrative of betrayal over the complex reality of human interaction? And how could he reach Dakota across the widening ocean of doubt now seated in her heart? For even if she believed him, would the public, would the fans, Would the press ever allow the truth to outweigh the convenient fiction of a scandal? And herein lies the deeper tragedy of celebrity relationships, for they are never truly lived by two people alone, but always inhabited by the shadows of millions watching, interpreting, projecting their own hopes and disappointments upon the lives of stars, demanding purity, loyalty, perfection, and punishing any sign of deviation, forgetting that actors, singers, and icons are merely human beings prone to mistakes, gestures, cultural differences, and private complexities invisible to the public eye, and thus the situation spiraled further as gossip sites speculated with reckless abandon, some claiming Isabella was a secret partner hidden for years, others inventing entire backstories of a clandestine romance, while fans of Dakota voiced fury that she, daughter of Hollywood royalty and admired actress in her own right, deserved a better man who would never humiliate her in such a way. Their hashtags trending worldwide. Hashtag Justice for Dakota. Hashtag Sam Cheats. Hashtag Paris Kiss. Flooding timelines. Memes emerging within hours mocking Sam's supposed downfall, while his loyal supporters countered with hashtags of their own, urging patience. Hashtag Sam Innocent. Hashtag Wait for the Truth. Hashtag Respect Sam and Dakota, as though the entire digital world had divided into a battlefield where truth no longer mattered, only allegiance, while insiders whispered to tabloids that Dakota was considering calling off the wedding entirely, her silence interpreted as confirmation of betrayal, though in truth she was paralyzed between love and doubt, duty and pride, the personal and the public, caught in that liminal space where private heartbreak becomes performance. And meanwhile, Sam drafted statements with his management, struggling to find the words that could capture both his innocence and his sorrow, rehearsing in his mind what he would tell Dakota first, because it was her trust that mattered most, not the screaming headlines, though he feared the noise would drown his voice, recalling how many celebrities before him had been destroyed not by their actions, but by perceptions, realizing with bitterness how fragile his carefully built reputation as a loyal, grounded star had become in the face of a single photograph. And as night fell in Paris, he sat by the hotel window overlooking the city of lights, reflecting on the cruel irony that Paris, a city of love, had become the stage of a supposed betrayal, and that the intimacy of a kiss, whether misinterpreted or genuine, carries archetypal weight in human psychology. For across cultures, a kiss is the seal of union, the breaking of trust, the symbol of Judas' betrayal, or the ecstasy of passion. And thus one kiss, captured by a camera, stripped of context, could embody both devotion and treachery in the eyes of the beholder, reminding us of the symbolic power of imagery in the age of mass media, where nuance dies and myth thrives. And so this story of Sam and Dakota, Isabella and the paparazzi, became not merely a celebrity scandal, but a parable of modern love under surveillance, of how intimacy survives, or fails to survive, when every gesture risks becoming content, every mistake a meme, every truth drowned by rumor, and the final tragedy remains unwritten, for only time will reveal whether Dakota will forgive, whether Sam will be believed, whether the public will tire of its outrage, or whether the dream of a wedding once filled with hope will dissolve into yet another cautionary tale of how love and fame, when entangled, often suffocate one another, leaving behind only headlines, hashtags, and unanswered questions.
Yeah, we're excited. People are pumped.
Yeah.
Well, it's three great people. We love everyone in this movie. It is you, it is...
They first encountered one another not on the glittering red carpets of Hollywood or amid the artificial glamour of film sets, but through something that carried the semblance of purity in a world saturated with artifice, a charity promotion project designed to highlight humanitarian causes and bring together artists, activists, and photographers, where creative spirits often converge not merely to produce images or campaigns, but to weave stories of compassion and connection. And it was in that environment that Sam Heughan, already internationally renowned for his magnetic presence on screen, and Isabella Marot, a French photographer celebrated in her circles for the raw emotion captured through her lens, found themselves working side by side, drawn not only by professional commitment, but also by the unspoken bond that emerges when two individuals share long hours of brainstorming, exchanging personal anecdotes, and enduring the fatigue of late-night planning sessions. And though their relationship remained grounded in professional respect, the air carried moments of unarticulated familiarity, like the quiet laugh when one stumbled over words in a second language, or the brief glance of recognition when another's idea mirrored their own. And so it happened that one evening in Paris, after long hours of preparation, as the golden lights of the city flickered against the Seine and exhaustion mixed with raw vulnerability, Isabella's composure shattered, and she burst into tears, confessing in a trembling voice that she had just broken up with her longtime boyfriend, a man who had been woven into her life for years, leaving her suddenly stranded in a sea of loneliness. And in that emotional turbulence, she rushed instinctively to embrace Sam, seeking comfort not in his fame but in his presence, and before reason could intervene, before the weight of consequence could descend, she leaned in and kissed him, an impulsive, emotional gesture that lasted mere seconds, just long enough for fate in the form of paparazzi lenses to immortalize it, capturing a fragment of time devoid of its context, but destined to ignite a scandal of monumental proportions. For while Sam was startled and confused, frozen in hesitation rather than immediate resistance, those few seconds were enough for the photograph to paint 1,000 false stories, and thus the shocking narrative was born, exploding into the media with the violent swiftness of a storm tearing across calm waters. And later that night, as Sam retreated to his hotel room, still replaying the brief encounter in his mind with the sinking awareness that someone might have seen, his phone rang, its sound cutting through the silence with dreadful inevitability, and on the other end was Dakota, her voice cold yet carrying the tremor of deep pain, the kind of tone that makes the heart collapse. For she did not waste time on pleasantries or anger, but went straight to the question that mattered most. Sam, tell me, I need the truth, not excuses. And in that moment, Sam realized there was no shield in denial, no refuge in carefully managed words, and so he spoke plainly, recounting every detail from beginning to end, leaving nothing hidden, because to him, honesty was the only hope, though he also knew with despair that truth often falters when confronted with the stark brutality of an image, for a picture, stripped of its context, becomes more powerful than any explanation. And as his words trailed into silence, Dakota offered no immediate reaction, only the chilling stillness of contemplation, before finally responding with quiet weight. I need time, Sam. I can't decide right now. A sentence that carried more dread than any outburst, for it meant uncertainty, limbo, the suspension of love in a fragile balance between belief and doubt. And as they each withdrew into their separate nights, the outside world surged forward with relentless appetite as the press dug deeper, not content with the initial images, but eager to fabricate more intricate webs of scandal, with tabloids declaring Isabella was in fact Sam's former lover resurfacing, others claiming with reckless abandon that she was pregnant and that Sam bore responsibility, weaving baseless narratives that spread like wildfire across headlines and online forums, feeding a public eager for drama. And as the hours turned to days, the question echoed repeatedly. If it was truly just a misunderstanding, why had Sam not immediately made a grand public statement to clear his name? Why the silence? Why the hesitation? And in that vacuum of certainty, suspicion bred itself endlessly, with analysts predicting Dakota would surely cancel the engagement, that no Hollywood star could endure such public humiliation and preserve her dignity, while whispers circulated about wedding dresses abandoned, rings returned, venues canceled, speculation feeding speculation until truth was buried altogether. And amid this suffocating storm, Isabella herself found the weight unbearable, the guilt gnawing at her as she saw how her impulsive action had destroyed peace for two people she had respected, and so at last, unable to watch in silence while the world crucified Sam, she arranged a small press conference in Paris, modestly attended, yet instantly amplified by the global media, and there, her eyes swollen with tears, she confessed in a trembling voice that Sam had done nothing wrong, that it was she who had initiated the kiss in a moment of weakness, while Sam, caught by surprise, had simply failed to react quickly, and she begged the public not to hurt him, not to hurt Dakota, because the responsibility lay with her alone, a confession raw and courageous. But tragically, rather than soothing public opinion, her words became distorted by the very press that claimed to report them, twisted into lurid headlines such as "Secret Lover Confesses Feelings for Sam Heughan" or "French Girl Publicly Declares Love for Outlander Star." Her act of honesty transformed into fresh fuel for the fire, and Sam, watching helplessly, felt the crushing futility of silence and distortion, realizing that no amount of truth would survive unspoken, and so he resolved, weary though he was, to face the public openly, not as an actor defending his career, but as a man defending his love. And Dakota, after much reflection and painful dialogue with herself, agreed, understanding that avoiding the storm would not protect them but only prolong the agony. And so together they made the decision to appear in a special interview, seated side by side, their bodies close, their hands intertwined, facing the cameras that had so often sought to reduce them to characters rather than people. And when the moment came, Sam looked directly into the camera with eyes unflinching and voice steady, declaring, "I love Dakota. She is the one I want to marry. What happened with Isabella was a misunderstanding, and I apologize deeply for not handling the situation more firmly, for causing Dakota pain, and for disappointing all those who look up to us." A statement both vulnerable and resolute, while Dakota, her expression a delicate mixture of sadness and strength, spoke in turn, her voice carrying the resonance of someone who has weathered storms before. "We have been through much together, and this too is part of our journey. For love is not only about the perfect moments, but about how we survive the tempests, how we rebuild when the world seeks to tear us apart." Words that silence the audience, not with scandal but with the raw dignity of two people choosing to fight for their bond, reminding the public, even if only briefly, that beyond the headlines, beyond the distortions and the hashtags, there exists a truth that is quieter, less sensational, yet infinitely more real. The truth of two souls navigating the treacherous terrain where love and fame collide,